Good evening, folks. Welcome to Between the Post episode number. I'm not sure now, we've been going for a while, but this show was slightly different to what you've experienced in the past for a couple of different reasons. Firstly, I currently have COVID, so I wasn't able to get into the studio, and my normal co-hosts are equally unavailable. So bear with us tonight. There will be a couple of IT issues at some stages, I would imagine, but the good news is we've got some great guests for you tonight. We've got Alex McKay, the current coach of the Tea Gully footy side, who are the only undefeated side in Division 1, sitting at 3-0. We've got a Yesterday's Hero segment where we talk to Shane Towie Moore, a legend from the Riverside, Kilburn and Salisbury North days back in the 90s. So whatever you do, grab yourself a cup of tea, grab a beer, strap yourselves in. This will be a show not to miss. Well, back in 2018, folks, Tea Gully won their first ever Division 1 premiership. And the little man that was captain at the time, Alex McKay, was a nice, quiet, shy, reserved individual. And he decided at the end of that year that he was going to go and sow his oats. Sow his oats he did. He ventured north to Brisbane for 3 years. He's back now, not only as the captain, but as the coach of Tea Gully. Alex McKay, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, Jacko. Thanks for having me, mate. It's a shame you've got COVID. I was looking forward to a catch-up with you, mate.
Yeah, no.
Plenty of beers together before.
Yeah, no, likewise. We will definitely have a beer before the season finishes, Matt. You know that. Mate, let's wind the clock back 3 years. You win the Division 1 premiership. You're a Tea Gully man. Your twin brother plays there. And all of a sudden you decide, nah, I'm going to head to the warmer lands in Queensland. What brought that about?
Well, initially it was just a phone call from a bloke called Peter Young who was doing some recruiting up there for the QAFL.
Yep.
He got a hold of my number and then gave me a call pretty much straight after we won the premiership, and I said, no chance, mate. I'm still on cloud nine after the premiership. I still love the footy club. I obviously still did when I left, but I was just in that state of mind where it's just all about Tea Gully and I was never going to leave. But once I took some time away and had to think about the opportunity, and I was single at the time, had no work commitments really. Nothing was tying me down to Adelaide, so I thought it was a perfect opportunity to get out my comfort zone and explore a bit more of Australia, I guess.
Yeah, fantastic. So where did you go to? I know you played in the Boffle, but were you living in Brisbane itself?
I was living in the Gold Coast,
Gold Coast.
In a suburb called Burleigh. It's pretty much the heart and soul of the Gold Coast.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a great spot down there. It's the standard of footy is improving every year. It improved a lot in the 3 years that I was there, and now there's some like ex-AFL players playing, and the Neill competition's no longer going ahead. So a lot of the players dropped down to the QAFL, and it's just a really, really strong league now.
Yeah, well, you certainly not only went and played good footy, mate, all of a sudden you became a TV star. I was getting messages saying Alex McKay is on The Bachelor. Now, tell us about A, how did you get seduced into doing that show? And then B, what was it like?
Yeah, well, I applied for a show called The Proposal. First off, got through, and then chickened out at the last minute. So then through the same producers of that show that were on The Bachelor, gave me an email, and I knew that show a bit more better and sort of a golden opportunity. So I thought, another reason, jump out my comfort zone while I've already moved into state alone. It was a bit of a shame for Labrador Footy Club as they just signed me, and then I left for 9 or 10 weeks during the season to film it. So that was a hard conversation to approach the coach. And then secondly, I loved it. It's not an environment for everyone. You open yourself up to a lot of judgment from everyone in Australia, really. So if you don't have thick skin or you don't carry yourself too well, be prepared to cop a fair bit of backlash.
Yeah. Well, I've got to tell you, mate, I don't normally watch that show, but given that you were on it, I dialed in most nights and got frustrated because I reckon you got down to the last half a dozen blokes on the show and you weren't getting a lot of airtime. And then you get through the show, then all of a sudden, hey, Mac is on another show. What was the next one? Bachelor in Paradise, was it?
Yeah, so The Bachelor, ended up getting to the top 5. I didn't get a lot of airtime. But then sort of what everyone sort of wants to get onto really is Bachelor in Paradise. They fly over to Fiji. The ratio is a lot better. Instead of one girl, there's even numbers on the island.
Right.
It's pretty much drinking all day and a little bit of filming.
Yeah.
But if you're a single man and you don't mind getting in the headlights, Bachelor in Paradise is the show for you, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, you certainly got a lot more airtime in that show, so I quite enjoyed tuning in and watching on that show, Mac. But, hey, your Bachelor days are well and truly over now. You've got a long-term girlfriend, and not only that, you've got a young girl, 5-month-old baby girl. How's that going?
Yeah, it's really well. Michelle, my partner, I met up in the Gold Coast. She's moved there from Melbourne interstate by herself as well, very similar situation to me. We met at the gym and, safe to say it was love at first sight. Ever since then, we've sort of been together for the last 2.5 years, and now we have little Della, who's 5 months tomorrow. It's time doesn't really matter once you meet the right person. Once you know what's right, you can fast forward things as fast as you want, and we're so glad to have Della with our lives now. And I'm the happiest I've ever been because of them too.
Life's pretty good for Alex McKay at the moment. There's no question about that. You are now running your own business. Give that a plug, mate. What's that all about?
Yeah, as Mac Construction, specialise in landscape construction, really. So anything outdoors, carpentry, retaining walls, paving, concreting, domestic and commercial. The business is going really well. I started up in Queensland, and the transition to Adelaide was smooth. So I've got some good employees, a great work environment. So everything's going really well, actually.
Oh, terrific, mate. Well, let's now move back to footy because this is a footy show.
Yeah, enough of Bachelor.
I've got to ask you what it's like. You've coached 3 games. You're undefeated. Word is around Teacher Gully, you're strutting around like a peacock with a chest out because how easy is coaching? How are you enjoying coaching at the moment, mate? 3-0, the only team undefeated.
Yeah, to be honest, I did underestimate the workload of coaching a little bit prior to signing it, but I'm loving every minute. It helps having a list of players that I do. They buy into every word I say. They're a great bunch of people, and we're sort of away from footy. We've been focusing on a lot of things about making sure that we are good people around the footy club, and that we are creating a place that people want to come to because work life can get busy, family life can get busy, and we're just really trying to create an environment that's welcoming for everyone, and they can forget about all their outside footy worries, really.
Oh, it's great to see, mate. When I heard from Dave Krasanti, the new president this year, that you were going to be appointed as coach, I thought it was a terrific appointment because you are a good lad and no one says anything bad about you. The hard part's going to be, Matt, when you have to pull out the big stick and whack someone because they're not playing well or they're not trying hard enough. I'll be interested to have a chat to you when you've had an opportunity to do that. You haven't had to do that at 3-0, I guess.
Yeah, that opportunity hasn't really come up yet, but I've addressed to the players from day one because I have a really good relationship with them all on a friendship base, winning flags together, playing a lot of footy together. But I did say when it's crunch time, I'm going to have my coaching hat on, and it's your choice to take it personally. But anything outside of football, anything that happens inside the four walls of football is purely just for a coaching perspective and not a friend perspective. So we put it to them to make sure that they can take that however way they want. At the moment, we haven't had to make any sort of wave the stick around, as you like to say, but it's, my job's been pretty easy at the moment.
Who's your assistant coach, mate? Who's helping you out on the bench?
Paddy McCauley. He's been a part of Gully's for as long as I can think of, 350 games plus. I think he might even be playing his 400 this year in the C grade. World of knowledge with football with him, and I have another assistant in Sean Powers, who's been around the footy club as well for many years. Both very good footy brains, and I can put a lot of trust into them while I can just worry about playing the game, which is great.
How did you find the transition, mate, from being a player to all of a sudden being a playing coach? Did it do your head in early? Or, obviously, it hasn't affected results, but did you struggle with it early days, or were you like a duck to water?
No, I struggled with it in the trial games for sure. I was very lucky to be able to have at least 2 trial games, because during that period I was able to adjust to that because I was doing too much coaching on field rather than worrying about playing. But as soon as I let go of that and put more trust into the coaches on the bench, I was able to perform on the game day. So it wasn't an easy transition, that's for sure. Tried to take control a bit too much, I think, in the trial games. But no, I've learnt my lesson.
Okay. Tell us about the fellas, the players that you've managed to bring back to the club that were there previously. They've come back. Ryan Spittle, I think, has come back this year. Yeah,
Ryan Spittle, he's a premiership player from 2018. He's a real classy player. He's not the biggest bloke in stature, but the way he goes about his footy is massive for us. He plays a big role for us game day in the midfield and as a small forward. He complements our big forwards really, really well. But as for any other recruits, I was sort of signed a bit later in the in the pre-season, so I wasn't able to do too much recruiting. But the other players we got back were Sam Chapina, who was an ex-Teachers Gully player, a real crafty wingman that's starting to play some good footy for us. And then a couple other players we brought in are on the long-term injury list, unfortunately, but hopefully in the years to come they can put the Gully's colours back on. Yeah,
okay, terrific. Mate, I'm going to get you to hang around. We do a segment, Division 1 wrap, so I'm going to get you to hang around and do that with me in a minute. We'll break for an ad. But last question before we do that, mate. Have you noticed a difference in the competitions from when you left, or does it still feel exactly the same?
It still does feel the same. I suppose it is I'd like to think it's a bit stronger than the QAFL, what we've been playing up there. I feel like the list is a lot deeper. Teams that lists are a lot deeper here than what they have in the QAFL. But yeah, it's much the same, to be honest. I haven't noticed too much change.
Well, Mac, it's great to have you back in the competition, mate. I guess one thing I will ask you about, because I know you're really passionate about it, along with Matty Stent, state footy. You must be disappointed that it's not in the program, hasn't been in the program for a couple of years now on the back of COVID, but there is talk that it'll be brought back next year. You'd be happy to see that come back, no doubt.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that it wasn't in the pipeline this year, so that's disappointing. It's a great concept to have for our league. It brings sort of rivals together, and then all of a sudden, spending some quality time with them over a beer and a game of footy, and you create this bond. Even with the coaches like yourself, you and Lambo, we have a strong relationship outside of footy now. Whenever we see each other, it's always over a beer and whatnot. And they're just great memories to look back on. So hopefully we do see that come back next year.
Yeah, for sure. Mate, it's great to have you back in the competition. You are one of the genuinely well-loved players in the comp. You left 2 medals before you went away. I'm not going to ask you whether you think you're a chance to win this year's, but how would it be? 3. Let's see if I can get some money on that. Is anyone running a book? Stick around. We're going to go to an ad, mate, then I'm going to get your thoughts on the Division 1 roundup.
Sounds good, Jacko.
All right, folks, we're going to do the Division 1 roundup. I'm lucky enough this week to have the only undefeated coach in Division 1, Alex McKay, jumping in and giving us a bit of a coach's perspective. We'll run through the games quickly. First of all, Old Ignatians, their first win ever in Division 1. We're lucky enough to call that game on Saturday, and boy, oh boy, they are the real deal. I know you played against them, Macca, already. What are your thoughts on Old Iggies?
Yeah, they took us by surprise, actually. They were really, really competitive inside footy, and they had good outside footy players as well. I knew they weren't going to be too far off their first win as round 1 and round 2. I think they were right in the mix with only a couple goals, but I'd pretty confidently say at the moment they're probably one of the toughest opposition that we've faced at the moment, even though it's only round 3 in, but they're looking in good stead this year for sure.
Yeah, they are well coached by Bootsy, and a big day for them down there. Anzac Day weekend, they won the A's and the B's, and it's a great setup. Karen Wright Reserve, folks. If you haven't had a chance to go down there and you want to go and watch a game, it is the best venue in the league. It's something else. So great first up win for Old Ignatians against Goodwood Saints. And one interesting stat, Mac, I'll throw this one at you. The 4 sides that played last year in Division 1, and I can't remember this in my history of being involved with the league, but the 4 sides last year that played in the finals, Ross Trevor, Payneham, Norwood Union and Prince Alfred currently hold 10th, 9th and 8th on the ladder, and Goodwood Saints, the other one that played, is out of the 5 as well. So we have got 5 brand new sides in the 5 at this stage. How good is that?
Yeah, it's exciting for Div 1 footy. Every week this week's going to be sort of a danger game, so to speak. But it makes me happy to see the likes of Rocks and Prince Alfred at the bottom of the ladder for once, that's for sure.
All right, well, the next game, mate, Port Districts. Now, I know you have played them. They beat Prince Alfred College by 22, Prince Alfred Old College, I should say, by 22 points. That's a good win to them, Port Districts.
Yeah, they're another strong outfit, actually. I think they've recruited well in the off-season. I think once they start gelling well together as a team, they're only going to get better. But yeah, I haven't really seen too much of goodies at the moment. But from what I've seen from Port Districts, they'll be right up there as well with old biggies. Yeah.
Well, it was a good win for them, no doubt about that. Brighton Bombers bounced back with a win. I think they won against Goodwood Saints round 1 and then had the 3 players suspended with a sling tackle and lost to Ross Trevor. But they bounced back with a good win against Payneham Norwood Union and a pretty big margin. 11-9, Payneham only kicked 4 goals, 14 for the game. Macca, you played against either of these?
Well, not against Brighton yet, actually. I think they were up into Div 1 once I left. But with a lot of new coaches since I've last been here, I do a lot of my research on the teams the week prior. So I don't know too much about Brighton. I still got still in good contact with Justin Machado, the last coach. So if when the time comes, I can deep dive into Brighton a bit more when the time comes.
Yeah, well, it's a good win for them. And the next game is equally as exciting as Old Ignatians getting their first win. Glenunga, the other team that got promoted from Division 2, recorded their first win of the season, 15-14. They trounced Ross Trevor 6 goals, 9. So, 10-goal margin. A bit of a surprise, Macca. You haven't played against either of these two, have you?
No, I haven't. But Ross Trevor are always a strong side. They've been in Div 1 for many, many years. But Glenunga have got another team that has sort of been a bit stiff along with Old Iggies. The first 2 rounds have been in and around the mark, just haven't quite got over the line. So maybe with a bit more confidence after a win, they could be up there in the finals as well.
Okay, mate. And the last one is obviously your game against St. Peter's. Now that 17-10 Teacher Gully beat St. Peter's 13-11, so 4-goal margin. That's a particularly good win because it was away from home. And you've got a pretty good draw, haven't you? I think you've got 6 of your first 9 games at home. You must have been pleased with that win.
Yeah, we were. We played 2 home games to start the season. So away at St. Peter's was a real sort of test for us. We gave them a 4-goal head start. I thought we were in trouble, but lucky to Brody Latham. I think he kicked 4 or 5 in the first quarter alone and brought us back into the game single-handedly. But we've had our backs against the walls already with Port Districts having 6-7 out because of COVID. Come from behind with Old Iggies in the last quarter, kicking 8 goals. We've played all sorts, been in every sort of position and been able to bounce back as a team. So we can sort of hold our heads high with in any situation at the moment, which is real pleasing. But 4 goals at St. Peter's, we're very, very happy with.
You should be, mate. And who have you got this week?
We've got Ross Trevor at home.
Okay, so a chance to go 4-0. And then imagine if you got 5 or 6. I don't want to get too far ahead of yourself, Mac, but if you got 6, my advice to you would be to hang the whistle up then and walk away from coaching and say, this is too easy, and find another challenge. Back on another reality show.
Yeah, I think they're both pretty stressful on equal levels, but I'll stick to coaching now, that's for sure.
All right, folks, one thing I need to tell you is their live stream game this week is St. Peter's versus Prince Alfred. This will be at Prince Alfred College, I should say. And that promises to be an absolute beauty. You know, those two schools have got a rivalry that extends back 100 years. So not doing anything next Saturday or at home looking for something to view click on our live stream. It promises to be a terrific game. Mac, it's been great having you on and great to catch up, mate. I look forward to calling a Tea Tree Gully game this year and seeing what you have brought to the Tea Tree Gully Footy Club, because I don't have any doubt that you'll be well liked and well respected out there, and it's great to have you back in our competition. Thanks for coming on, Alex McKay.
Yeah, thanks, Jacko. I really look forward to catching up with you, mate.
Well, welcome viewers, a very special round coming up, and I'm joined by, first of all, John Mannion. And John, your title please, it is a mouthful.
Thanks very much, Tony. It's John Mannion. I'm the Executive Director for Breakthrough Mental Health Research Foundation.
Thank you very much, and you are a great supporter of the Adelaide Football League for sure. And I'm also joined by Zane Kirkwood. Your title please, Zane.
It's a bit easier, it's our Community Engagement Specialist, is me.
Fantastic. And listen, gentlemen, in all seriousness, Round 5 is upon us, May 7th. It's the Breakthrough Community Round. What can you tell us about this round? It is so important.
Yeah, I mean, this round for Breakthrough and for sports are absolutely really, really powerful. We know that 1 in 5 of us are struggling with mental health issues, but we also know that our sporting communities give this sense of purpose and a sense of belonging. So the Breakthrough Community Round is this day where we actually say to everybody, today's the safe day to actually have this mental health conversation, to reach out, to actually check in with people, to actually connect, but also to actually drive the change. Wouldn't it be incredible if we just didn't have this conversation on this one round, but we actually had it 365 days of the year. So our aim really is to make this an everyday normalised conversation.
Fantastic, and it is becoming that, isn't it? That normal, everyday conversation. And Zane, there's a little bit more to it that the clubs can be doing, and you've got a few little things that you can tell us about. Yeah,
so clubs can get involved. They can fundraise throughout the day for whatever suits the club. They can have barbecues, they can have functions at night during the game, whatever they think is appropriate for them. But then also we'll have merch available that's through Breakthrough. Beautiful. So we've got one of the beanies here that clubs can purchase and supports Breakthrough. And again, it's another thing that I guess it opens up those conversations. People see these items and they can feel like they can have those conversations with people.
Are there socks as well? Is that happening this season?
There is socks. They're on their way. We've got socks. We've got hats, bucket hats. We've got a mixture of things coming this year. So yeah, hopefully we can keep spreading the word.
And something special we'll cover in a moment with John about the actual mental health first aid course. But if they raise a certain amount, there's something going on with that as well, isn't there?
Yeah, so we've got, if clubs can raise $500 or more, they can have 2 people trained up within their club in mental health first aid, which is really important. It's just another part for people to reach out within the club and know who to turn to if they need support, whether it's the person directly or their family as well. So it's a really important thing.
No, that is absolutely fantastic, Zane, and a good reward. It's not just about raising the money, but getting the people through the mental health first aid course is such a huge part, which we'll come to, John, because it's more than just one game, as you said. It's more than just one season. It's a constant, and many of us know someone that's gone through some mental health issues. The mental health first aid course, how is it implemented in the clubs? I think you're doing some great things here. And do you recommend one or several people at the club to do the course? I know what I'd say.
Oh, well, I think you know the answer here, Tony.
Yes.
What we'd love to have 2 or more members from every sports club across every club here in South Australia. The aim for doing that is then you've got two people that can actually have the skills, are watching out for their friends, looking out for those signs, those symptoms, especially around anxiety, depression, drugs, alcohol, even psychosis at that point of time when you're at that severe level of trauma and distress. But also, if you saw that, then what would you put into place? Would you know the skills to actually have that conversation? Would you know where to have the conversation? Looking somewhere safe, looking somewhere quiet, and also then providing that support and guidance, because the challenge we often face is we believe we have to fix it, and that's not our job to do that. We actually can't do that, but I can actually stand next to somebody who's then ready, who wants to be supported, who wants to be guided, and that can actually drive an enormous change, especially at a point of time when we know the stigma and discrimination still associated with actually reaching out is still there. So our ability to have the conversation, ability to put actions into place, and our ability then to actually support others, that's exactly what you'll get from the first aid training.
And exactly what you mentioned there, one of the other areas we look at, of course, is loneliness. People get lonely, and sometimes the sports club is the only community and only contact they may have for the whole week, and that is their circle or their network. And I guess, Zane, the structure in the club, once someone's done the mental health first aid course, would you suggest they would be the go-to rather than just walking up to anyone at the bar or having a bit of a chat with people over a few drinks? It's, okay, there is one person, there's a little bit of a red flag, let's go to that one person.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if it's known within the sporting club as well of who that person is, it makes it easier rather than, I guess, trying to ask questions. People might be a bit embarrassed to ask the question. So if it's known, I know from my dad at his local club in Paraka in the footy league, they've got three people trained up, one for cricket, one for footy, and then dad kind of oversees both of that. So there's three people and they've got a poster on the wall. So I guess that shows that if those people are known, they can be sought out and ask the question when they feel that they need to.
And of course, the extension of that is you can go to that person. Now, that person might have mental health first aid training, but the person that's come to them, can we assist in-house? We can find out that, or can we point them in the direction of maybe a little bit more professional help? And I think deciding that is very important. It's a great discussion to have as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think... I thought you were asking John.
Just the external assistance on the professional side is very important.
Yeah, definitely. I think just fresh set of eyes on what's going on for the individual. I think that can help not only the person again going through it, but the support that's around them, which is the families, and just pointing them in the right direction. Again, reiterating what John said of not trying to solve the problem, but they can help point you in the right direction to get that support.
And we look at what may happen or what can happen in sports clubs, and we talk about relationships, building relationships, maintaining relationships and rapport. And I wrote some of the notes for coaches, teams and players and the community. Performance anxiety is a huge one. You know, the player doesn't get feedback from the coach, so he says, well, geez, am I in the top three, am I in the bottom three, am I going to get dropped? They go through performance anxiety. They think they've had a bad game, and the coach is thinking they've had a great game. Sometimes the feedback can be misread. The player goes away and thinks about it. The coaches coping under pressure, and of course capacity and load is a big one. A coach takes on a lot, capacity and load, and they're trying to balance out that along with their general day-to-day work life and family relationships at home. So can there be some assistance around those things? I'll go to John.
Yeah, I mean, wow, what a question to ask. But I think, if you actually look at within that sporting connectivity, if we put a mental health lens on it, what are the things we'd want to put into place that provide that support? So we know on the field, when we're on the oval, if we get out of position, we expect someone's going to cover for us.
Yes.
If we go for goal, we get a behind, you still get the motivation, you still get the praise, you still get the pat on the back. When we actually score, when we get the goal, everyone's around you, everyone's celebrating that. How do we translate that off the oval? How do you translate that when someone's struggling, that you still put your arm around them, you still cover for them, you still have their back for them? And I suppose it's those transition pieces from a coach perspective you can really start to grow. And that's around culture, isn't it? It's around the culture of we're actually coming together because we actually want to be part of something bigger than just ourselves. We want to be part of something that's a team. We're actually part of a community, which is that sporting community. And that, as you mentioned earlier, is a beautiful way to actually connect people, to give them a sense of purpose, sense of belonging, but also that whole conversation around that loneliness and how do I actually break that down. when we came back to playing sport after the initial sort of lockdowns, we spent some time going around a number of different sporting clubs, having the mental health conversation. And the powerful piece that came out was for people saying, I hadn't realised how important my club was to me. That let me get out. It got me out to train, got me out to play. And for some people, they're the only times they're actually getting out of the house. As we then reconnected, we realised the power that actually had for us. And it's not necessarily just the coach. It can be Doris that does the barbecue, that's the person that connects you. It can be the ball boy, it can be the runner, it can be the old man who comes and watches you every week. You may not actually realise that you are the reason he actually gets out of his house. So the clubs and the way in which our sporting community pull together to drive the mental health conversation and support that culture of change is so, so powerful.
And you've actually touched on, I reckon you've read my notes there, because I was going to go to you, Zane, here. We talk about the strategies that can assist, that are easy to apply. You know, obviously you can go and see your psychologist and get into the real headspace stuff, but easy things, and we talk about maybe sleep deprivation, rumination, and I talked about this sort of stuff, we spoke earlier, Zane. Talk to someone, your lifestyle choices, regular sleep, exercise, go down to the ocean and fresh air. There's some other easy things which you've probably touched on there. Get out the training rather than sitting in front of the TV. The hardest thing is the first 10 minutes, isn't it? Getting started.
The first step's the hardest one, but then after that it's easier. But definitely I think there's a lot of good things that are out there, and unfortunately it's not one size fits all. You've got to find what works for you, and I know for me personally is that exercise and getting out, and even if it's just for 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes more than what you wouldn't have done. So I think rewarding yourself for those things, and having the conversations with the appropriate people as well. You don't need to tell everyone, but if you feel you need help, you go to the appropriate person, and it's definitely a massive help.
Well, I think you'll all agree it has been a fantastic interview, but we have got one more question for each gentleman here, and we were discussing this in the preparation, and it's I'm going to get into it. What do you guys do for balance and time out?
It's a great question. So for me, I've got a beautiful Groodle called Ted. We go out for walks. I like a bit of paddleboarding. I'm very wobbly. I can hit a golf ball straight but not very far, so they're pretty good. And then the same concept of that exercise, just putting out there, you get the same release of endorphins from eating a piece of chocolate. So that's pretty good for me as well. Fantastic.
And yourself, Zane? You're still having a kick, I understand, as well.
I'm actually lactose intolerant, so I can't have that chocolate. That's why I have to exercise. So I guess I finished footy playing halfway through last year, and I guess that community sense of not just playing footy but being around people is a big thing for me, and I didn't know that until I stopped. So getting back involved with footy's been big for me, and exercise as well. I got two border collies that nudge me at 5 o'clock every morning to go up and go for a walk, and I love that, getting out and listening to music. Basketball, I love basketball, so those kind of things I go back to and try and do at least one of them every day to set me off on the right foot.
Oh, well, I'll put you two under pressure with that question. You've got through it fantastically. There we are, folks.
You haven't answered it though, Tony. What do you do?
Oh, I move around, I listen to music, I do anything. So anything to get out and about. And like that last question, let's finish on a positive. You know, surround yourself with positive people and try and get around positive support and also support others, because you can actually carry that good high vibrancy along and help others. You know, do they drag you down or can you pick them up? And it's very easy to do in a quick conversation, a phone call, g'day mate, you know, how you going today, and stuff like that. It is so important. So, you know, you really get some enjoyment out of hearing other people pick up as well, because it tends to carry us all along. So, look, as we touched on, there are so many areas, and I just think it's great over the last few years. We've had Breakthrough Foundation, of course, helping over the last few years, and we can see it growing now. And I can't push enough the mental health. I've done the 2 courses, the mental health first aid. Yes, everyone in a club should be at least 1 or 2 people accredited, if not more. There are some tools out there. There is assistance out there for all the clubs through the Adelaide Football League, and I thank you gentlemen so much for joining us for this interview, and keep an eye out for that round, of course, round 5, May the 7th. Keep an eye out for the merchandise, but of course it is a continuity over 365 days a year. So thank you very much, gentlemen.
Oh, thanks very much, Tony.
Thank you.
Welcome back, folks. We're now going to go on a bit of a journey through the rest of the divisions, Divisions 2 through to Division 7. And what I thought it would do was just highlight, and I know this is not great for some of the sides that are in the yet to win a game category. But I thought I'd run through the sides in all the divisions that A, are undefeated, or B, yet to win a game. And you feel sorry when the season's been going 3 rounds plus the Easter weekend, which means we've been going for 4 weeks. Everybody gets through the pre-season with high expectations, and then you're 4 weeks in and, wow, some of those sides are undefeated. They'd be feeling terrific, but equally some are yet to win a game. Let's have a look at Division 1. Firstly, Gully, only undefeated side in that competition, and no side yet to not win a game. So good from that bottom end of the table. Division 2, we have Athelston, North Haven and Broadview all sitting without a loss. And at the bottom end of the table, Salisbury North, Adelaide Beauty and Unley Mercedes Jets yet to win a game. And what's interesting about that, folks, is Adelaide Beauty and Unley Mercedes dropped down from Division 1 last year into Division 2, and 3 rounds in have yet to win a game. So feel a little bit for those guys, particularly through the strength of their club, and the Bees aren't travelling that well as well. In Division 3, Scotch College, the only side yet to win a game there, and Golden Grove, the only undefeated side. In Division 4, Woodville South, Mitcham and Pulteney still to trouble the scorers, and Pembroke, the only team that remains undefeated. So well done to Pembroke. Division 5, Hectorville, Eastern Park and Elizabeth all yet to lose, and Blackfriars and Salisbury yet to win. In Division 6, Trinity, they remain on top of the ladder with 3 wins and no losses, and Ingle Farm and Rosewater yet to win a game, although Rosewater have only played 1 at this stage, according to the ladder. Division 7, Greenacres and Adelaide Uni yet to lose, and Flinders Uni yet to win. The other interesting point out of the weekend, I guess, is Division 4, Pulteney. First time I can ever remember this, they were unable to field a side in any grade at all. So that means A grade and B grade. And how that works, folks, is their B grade were able to claim 1 point. So it's effectively a draw against Hope Valley for the weekend because they were decimated because of COVID. But for their A grade, that is an automatic loss and a 10-goal loss. So we feel for the Pulteney Old Scholars Footy Club, they need to hopefully get some blokes back out from COVID next week and be able to field the sides. That's our wrap from Around the Grounds.
Well, good day, footy fans. My name's Phil Hurden, and welcome to the Women's Wrap. Round 3 of the Adelaide Footy League is in the books, so we're going to take a look at the league results from Divisions 6 to 1. Starting off with the Powerade Division 6, handy wins to Edwardstown over Mannion and Modbury over Adelaide University. But what the heck happened at Pembroke? The Queens, 19 goals, 21. Just as well they weren't particularly accurate, taking down a previously undefeated Athelston side who did get a goal for the day. 127 points, that winning margin. The ladder of Div 6 after a few games, Pembroke look unstoppable, Edwardstown with 2 wins. The closest, Modbury, Loretto and Athelston have some premiership points. Mannion and Adelaide University looking for that first win. Uni, well, they host Edwardstown at Park 12, the Fred Block Oval. Loretto get to host Pembroke at Campbelltown. Good luck to Loretto, the way Pembroke are playing. And probably the most even matchup is at Modbury Oval at 4:45. The Hawks hosting the Raggies, both with a win, a loss on the board, whilst Mannion has the bye this weekend. The Safety Hub Division 5, 16 competition this year. Wins to Jeps Cross, easily over Woodville South to stay unbeaten. Elizabeth over North Haven and Eastern Park over Kilburn to be in the top 4. You have a look at the ladder and there they are. Jeps Cross unbeaten. Eastern Park and Elizabeth who won, 2nd and 3rd. Kilburn in there with a 1-win, 2-loss record. Woodville South just out of it. North Haven still a shot, just looking for their first win. This game's this weekend. The most important one is probably at Blair Athol Reserve. Kilburn and Woodville South, the winner's in the 4, the loser is out. Lugs North Reserve, North Haven looking to take on board Eastern Park. Tough challenge there for the Magpies. 4:45 at Duncan Fraser, probably the best game of the round. Jeps Cross unbeaten, hosting Elizabeth at 2 wins and 1 loss. Billy's Bakery Division 4. Here we saw West Croydon over Polton. Good to see Polton got a team up in A Division over the weekend by 10 points. Hectorville defeating Ingle Farm on the road by 19. Glenunga over Rosewater by 29. And Lockleys too strong for Mannion down at Sturt Road. The ladder, West Croydon are unbeaten, the Hawks flying high. Pulteney, Lockleys, Hectorville with 2 and 1. Mannion, Glenunga, Ingle Farm 1 and 2. Rosewater at the bottom, zipping 3 thus far. And the Dogs at Eric Sutton Reserve host Ingle Farm 1 and 2. Might consider themselves a chance here. At Fork Reserve, the undefeated Hawks host Glenunga. Daily Oval, an even matchup. Hectorville, the Hounds and the Demons. And at 4:45 down at Sturt Road, Mannion Sports Complex, the Rams and Pulteney do battle there. Which takes us to the 9 News Division 3. And here we see the Goodwood Saints by 45 points over Brighton. Closest game of the day, no doubt about it, Kenilworth and Hope Valley pulling out a draw. Mitcham holding off Fitzroy, that's 27 points. And Golden Grove holding off Flinders Park, that by just a 7-point margin. So after 3 rounds, the ladder, Woody Saints solely unbeaten. Mitcham, Golden Grove, Flinders Park in fast pursuit. Kenilworth, half a game behind with a draw. Brighton 1 win, Hope Valley 1 draw. Fitzroy trying to get onto a premiership ladder with some premiership points somewhere. 9 News Division 3, the games this weekend. Hope Valley hosting Flinders Park in search of win number 1. Brighton at Brighton Oval host Mitcham. Golden Grove and Goodwood Saints at Harpers Field, game of the round. And Fitzroy at Sam Johnson Sports Ground. Is this the week when they host the Kookaburras of Kenilworth? Cinderella's Commercial Cleaning Division 2, here victories to Blackfriars over Henley by 28. Teacher Gully took care of Gazer by 7. And Flinders University, sole unbeaten, well, they are unbeaten, 51 points, having made the big trip from Bedford Park all the way up to Angle Vale. Scotch were spectators for the weekend. There you can see Flinders University, sole unbeaten side. Blackfriars, Angle Vale with the 1 loss. Teacher Gully 1 and 1, Henley 1 and 2. Gazer and Scotch have had 1 bye, still looking for 1 win. And that might come this week. They're battling each other in a Saturday night game at Clemsig Reserve. Also, Flinders Uni and Blackfriars game of the round, that's 3:15 at the University. 5:30 at Henley, it's the Sharks against Teacher Gully. Angle Vale set this one out. And finally, Division 1. Great game, Broadview and Old Ignatians. Old Ignatians led early, Broadview came back late. They got the chocolates by 4 points. Similar story at Kellett Reserve. Morphettville Park had a lead at quarter time by a couple of goals. Adelaide University evened it all up at half time, then kicked 6 goals to nil in the second half. 7 goals to nil, I guess. Or 6 goals, 6 maybe, to win by 42 points. Happy Valley, well, it was one-way traffic for the Vikings over Smosh West Lakes, a big percentage booster that helps them out. We'll see that in a sec. Whilst the Falcons of Payne and Norwood Union had the long weekend off. Yep, that percentage certainly helped. Happy Valley over Old Ignatians. Broadview 2-0, the sole unbeaten side, is sitting in 3rd. Morphy Parks in 4th. Uni and Payneham, well, Uni 1 win. Payneham and Smosh still looking for that first victory. The games this weekend, well, Adelaide Uni and Smosh, that's at Fred Block Oval, 3:15. Old Ignatians and Payneham, they're the 2 sides that have both a men's and women's team, both in Division 1. They clash at Park 25, just out the back of Karen Rolton Oval. Saturday night footy at Happy Valley Oval, the Vikings leading the league. Broadview, the sole unbeaten side. That should be the game of the round. And Morphettville Park will get this weekend off. So there you have the wrap. Now look, I can read scores and ladders and fixtures and all that, but I'd love to talk more about women's footy. We need your help. What's happening with your club, what's happening with your women's team, milestones, great stories, things you'd like promoted, like events and so forth. Let us know so we can talk about it. Email phil@footytimes@gmail.com. That's it for me this week. Be back around the same time next week. Until then, enjoy your footy.
Take a look at me, I'm yesterday's hero. Oh, as you know, folks, this is my favourite segment of the show. And I don't reckon we've rolled it out this year. And I'll tell you what, I am getting sick of people ringing me, texting me and emailing me and say, when are you going to have another Yesterday's Hero segment? And what better day to do it than Anzac Day? Well, I started to think about Anzac. Who's a real warrior that could come out and be our Yesterday's Hero? And then it dawned on me, not the Anzac dawn, it dawned on me who should be our Yesterday's Hero for Anzac Day. And it is none other than the great Shane Toey Moore. How are you, Toey?
Yeah, good, Jacko. Thanks for having me on, mate.
Oh, it's great to have you, mate. I try not to lean too much into people that are good mates of mine for the show. Otherwise, people will start saying it's all about me and me mates. But overdue to have you on, mate. Makes the hair on the neck stand up a little bit, sends shivers down the spine. Did you watch the footy today, Anzac Day?
Yeah, for sure. Love the footy.
How good
was
that?
Love the old footy. Not know about the new footy. It's changed a bit.
Well, let's wind the clock back, mate. We had a few from Riverside. Well, we had Jeff Emmel from Riverside last year. Let's wind the clock back a bit, mate. You were born in Middleton in York Peninsula?
No, born in Yorktown, but grew up in Waruka, and then played all junior mini league down at Waruka Roosters. Western United, they were 6-team comp in the Peninsula. Now it's the CMS and Southern Eagles, 3 teams amalgamated. Yep. But started down there. Dad was a local truckie, and he decided he'd branch out and move up to Milton for a bigger township. And so I went up there and did my high school. So I started at the Roosters and then went to the Milton Bulldogs for the under-16s down there. So that's where it all sort of started. But yeah, Waruka boy at the start.
Okay. So you stayed in the York Peninsula till you were how old?
16. Yeah, 16.
So
yeah.
You must laugh. And then obviously came to Adelaide. You must laugh when you see kids get drafted and they make them, carry on about the fact these kids are getting drafted at such a young age. And you've left your mum and dad and moved to the city for footy. Was it for footy you came to Adelaide?
Oh, yeah, everything was for footy. Just loved it, to get an opportunity to come over. My cousin was around with Jolly. He'd come over a little bit older, a year older, and come over, and his football improved so much, and just to get the feedback and to want to have a crack at it and come over and play would be a great opportunity. But as you know, leaving at 16, reserves back in those days are on TV, and you come over, you skip 17s in the 90s, a little bit of reserves, you're on TV, you're a superstar.
Tell me about living, mate. Where did you live when you first came over?
I was lucky that I had some distant relatives that I never knew I had down at Glenelg, and they took me on. They had 10 kids themselves, but actually took me on as a boarder. So I was on Delphi Terrace there. It was a bloody good place. You had Lenny's up the road, which wasn't good.
Yeah. You'd still owe them rent from those days, Toey?
Oh, it was bloody cheap rent. I know that, but no, it was a start. But as you know, like you didn't have mobile phones, and you had the local phone box, and you had to save all your 20s to go down and ring your parents up and say, "I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble again."
How did you find that, mate? How did you find that leaving home at such a young age?
Yeah, I think it did have a bit of effect, really. Like we talk about mental issues and stuff like that. With things that it does get you down, because growing up in the country, things were, you trusted everybody, and you come to the city and you're on your own, and it's dog eat dog type thing. It can be, and you drive in a car, you have an accident, things happen, and you're a long way away on the phone in the phone box, but you get through it. Like I said, you got to toughen up and you get through it. But ideally, like I've got boys living home now, going through issues, and you're there to support them, you're there with them. So it was a bit different, a bit harder, but.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So you came straight to Woodville when you left York Peninsula. You came straight to Woodville, played, as you mentioned, the 17s and 19s as it was back then.
Yeah.
Stayed there for 4 years, played in 3 reserves grand finals.
Yeah, I was lucky enough. I come in 84. I reckon we finished bottom, and to know what it's like to play in the bottom side, chasing all day. And then you go up the next year, you went 85 Norwood, and they beat us. 86 Norwood beat us, and then we come from 5th in 87 and knocked Centrals off, which was a great, really, really great effort to do that. But looking back in that reserve side at the time, I don't know if a lot of people, it's a long time now, but Ace Maynard went on to play the Crows. They were playing second footy. Vardeniger, Hall, Alvin Menzel, like Dean Renfrey. Like, these guys are brilliant footballers, and you're a young rooster and they're trying all the tricks in the book on you. And so it was pretty hard, but you learn from them, you learn from them.
Yeah, no doubt you did, mate. So you decided at the end of, halfway through 88 that you will part ways with Woodville. Didn't quite pan out as you wanted in terms of playing regular league footy. Went back and played the rest of the year back at your old home club.
Yep. Yeah, went back. It was just to to get out of the city and just get over there and, enjoy football a little bit, break for break. You put in and things didn't go your way, and just to get back there and enjoy having a go at a few marks and, taking the game on and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Would have been nice to go back and catch up with your family again on a regular basis too, I suppose.
Yeah, Dad really never followed me because he was a trucky's horse on the road type thing. So to go back there and at the time he wasn't working then, and he was right into it. He was a selector. He was down the club. He was, it was right into it. So it gave him a bit of a, pep up that I was coming home every weekend there in the winter time.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
As you know, mate, this is an Adelaide Footy League show, or as used to be known when you played, mate, the amateurs, and you had a stellar career with the amateurs. So I'm going to walk you through some of that journey.
Yeah.
You first went to Riverside in 1989, spent 2 years there. In that 2-year period, you were runner-up in the medal in 1990. Played state footy. We'll go into the state footy career in a minute. But who was your coach back in those days at Riverside?
I went down there, Jeff Morris went down. He was our coach from Westies that first year. Had a bit of a shocking year coming in the amateurs. Fractured my foot in a state game, come back, got that right, and just got back on the field, and then I got a broken arm. So in that game, I only played about 10 games or something like that. So it wasn't a real, when your own mate kicks you, it was a bit of a, you don't mind the opposition breaking your arm, but your own teammate kicked me. But anyway, that's how footy can be. 89, Jeff Morris come down, Buffer, he was quite good. He even put the boots on that year and he wanted to show us how it's done. So he was pretty sore the next day, but people do, But 89.
So at the end of 90, mate, you decide to leave and go to Kilburn, and most people who would know Towie Moore would remember your long service. I think you played 178 games. You're a life member of the Kilburn Footy Club. What got you to Kilburn other than money?
Oh, look, mate, it was a guy called Steve O'Connor, their sporting director for Kilburn, and I had another mate, Paul Pacini, and we were at Riverside. And I think what happens with football clubs, they win premierships, they won flags back to back in the 80s. And I think what happens with a lot of football clubs, when you win these flags, you sort of stop a little bit and keep going back to the old days, and you got to keep going forward. And, you got younger blokes coming in, they haven't experienced it, but they got to try and create their own destiny. And at that time, and Steve O'Connor just keeps ringing like he's got all these great players, Kilburn, over the years. This guy just freaking rings me every night, But we all got there because he's persistent and he just loved the club. But anyway, to go down to Kilburn, it was I loved the fact that it was more of a challenge. Because one of his spills was, he said, "Well, how would you like to be? We've never won an A1 flag, and how would you like to be part of the very first ever A1 flag for this football club?" And you know what? I said, "I'm in, mate. I'm in." That, to me, I'd love to be part of that, that journey. And we did it. We went down and we ended up, it took us a while, a couple of seasons we lost, but we've ended up bloody getting there. So it was great,
Yeah, he obviously found the right carrot. You ended up spending from 91 to 99 at Kilburn, so 9 years stint. And in that 9 years, you won the Division 1 medal in your second year there, or first year?
First year, come down and was lucky enough, had a great ruckman, Morrison Tolley. He spent a bit of time at North Adelaide, and we got the pack going pretty well there. He was a beautiful palmer of the ball, and just found that, we could work together and he could pit that ball where I wanted to be, and it suited me, and had a great year. And I think a runner-up was our centre back, Trevor McClure, who come down from Horsham, and he was a great player. He was runner-up, so there was two of us, we were polling each other out. So it was, in the end, but it was great, great year there. And it was just, was just probably like the door shut and other things, another door opens. It was like just trying to show people that you felt like I don't know, for some reason you just had that pressure to show, look, hang on, I reckon I can go all right, and you train hard and do the hard yards and then come out and say, well, you know what, that's a little bit of pressure. I can play because I won a bloody, we've won a premiership, we won a medal, sort of thing. So it was a bit of reward there for just training hard, sort of thing.
Well, it was a big club back in the day, wasn't it? You end up playing in 6 grand finals in your 10-year tenure at Kilburn. 3 of those premierships: 94 against Port Districts, 95 against Broadview, and then you left and came back. And 2001 was your last year, and your very last game was a premiership in Division 1 for Kilburn. Who was that against?
Adelaide Uni. Roger Delaney come in, and I went to Salisbury North the year before, and then I was going to retire. I had enough. I'd been started all my own business, and at 33, and I was coming to 34 that year, and it was like, you know what, I'm going to retire, and I think I've had enough, buddy, mowing lawns and then going to train, and you're doing that. The body's starting to feel it, and then Ricky Fox, great Kilburn person, rang me up on that year. I said, I'm retiring from Salisbury North. He rang me and said, we want you back, Toey. We want you back. I said, mate, I'm just about done, I reckon. He said, we want you to give us one more year. I said, I'll give you one more year. So I ended up, buddy, in the back pocket. I was the junkyard dog, and just hung on in there. And, I had good players around me, and Roger coming in from, being a fullback coach. Like most of the time, coaches work on midfield, which, is quite good, but because Roger was always on the kick-in, so it was a different style, and we just bloody broke games apart from our kick-ins with setups and from the actual kick-in from a point. So we could actually just about run it down and score from kick-in. So I had Ryan Harvey back there and a couple of other guys, but they used to just block in the hole, and I'd just mop up around the bloody skirts. It was really good, really. Yeah.
I could go on and on, mate, but your state footy career must be something you must be proud of as well. You were 89, 91, 93, 95, 2000. I'm sure there's in those 10 games you played there was some real highlights, but beating Victoria in Victoria must have been the highlight there, surely.
Oh, yeah. Your career goes up and down, and you sort of sometimes you think your form's quite good and you don't get selected, and then other times you go, I don't think I'm having a real good year, and you do get selected. So you know how it can be with it, and then you just grab on board. And then Terry Holman, I think, was coach, and Paul Kemp come back from league footy, and he'd be captain and vice captain, and off we went. And then we hadn't beaten them in 10 years at Elston Wick. It's a tough turf over there, and it was in the mud, it was in the slog, and we knuckled it out, and we come home with a win. It was one of the greatest, wins to beat the Big V, because you don't beat them very often, because they blokes coming out of the draft, and that's back in those early days out of the VFL and stuff like that. But yeah, you could say I beat the Big V, so I was lucky enough to do that.
Well, if you look through the history of the Amateur League and now the Adelaide Footy League, mate, there's not too many times South Australia has beaten Victoria in Victoria. So it is something you should be justifiably proud about, as you should be of getting life membership in 2003, mate. That must have been a thrill for you. Oh, yeah, for sure. That was a big thrill, a big part of them to, put in at a football club. And they the good thing about Kilburn was, you played footy, and I wanted to be judged on my football, and go there and play hard, tough footy, and they loved it, and the supporters were passionate. And, there's a lot of knockers about Kilburn, but they're just like anyone else, mate. They're just passionate, love their footy, and rock up everything. I couldn't speak highly of Kilburn Football Club, great football club. Yeah, you must be pleased to see them still going, because for a while there it looked a little bit shaky, but still some good people involved there, isn't there? Carol Martin's still there. Yeah, there's some diehards there. Like I said, we've seen it before. You get, like media can be sometimes. There's rumours all the time. When I was playing football there, we're doing this, we're going down, it just makes you stronger, mate. You just got to get stronger, and you come back and fight against the odds. That's what we do, And to knock, people's always easy to knock, this and that, but at the end of the day, we stick together and you push through and do the results, Yeah. I want to touch, mate, on your journey after playing, because I think that's equally impressive, the amount of years you gave the Smosh West Lakes Football Club you've got 3 boys who have all come through the system at Smosh. Nick, your youngest, is playing in the SNFL with Port Magpies, obviously now. But your involvement there started when as a junior coach or on the committee, or how did you get involved at Smosh?
Well, it comes down to you got your boys coming through junior football, and you've got to remember that most junior people or people involved at football clubs are volunteers. So you don't want to be going there and sledging or putting other people down because they're putting their hand up, and simple as that. So at the end of the day, it was like, all right, if you want to sledge it, you go and do it. You put your hand up, then you have a crack at it, and you give it your way, and see how you go. So that was what it really started. The wife probably pushed me a fair bit to say I didn't know if I could do it and this and that. And then all of a sudden I got into it, and it's just like, how I was with my football. You're just passionate, and you want to succeed. You want the best for the boys. You want to see them grow and get better footballers. And it all sort of just started coming out. It was quite, it was one of the most enjoyable times I ever had. You play your footy, but to see these boys, whether it be taking an overhead mark one week or, and just little things like that to go into their football, it was such a reward. It was a great reward to see that.
Yeah, well, I mean, once again, your career as a coach lasted over quite a journey. You end up coaching the association side, the Eagles under 15s, was it?
14s, yeah.
Under 14s.
Yeah.
So you've certainly given back to footy in more ways than I can count in a short period of time. So it's been great catching up. I know you don't officially have a role anymore at Smosh. What occupies your time now from a footy perspective?
Oh, look, I'm on shift work down at Q Ports there. We do a fair bit of shift work and stuff like that. But just following the boys, I've got a lad playing up at North Clare, Nick at the Maggies. So I'm trying to go to watch these games now. And, a few lads I coach, and I mean, you keep an eye on, like Brody Smith was under 14s captain one year. I've had lads that have come through and playing league. Jackson Mead, who was under there, Mitchell Mead. You're sort of keeping an eye on all these lads that come through junior football and seeing how they go. You had a little bit of a part in their path. So it's quite enjoyable to see that now and how they're taking it on and improving. So, yeah, it's really quite enjoyable.
Well, that's great, Toey. Mate, I've got to thank you for coming on and being our only yesterday's hero for season 2022. I'm sure we'll roll out a few more in the next couple of weeks. But I think one thing I hope you've got out of this is that sometimes we go through life and we don't get a chance to sit back and reflect. And having asked you to sit down and write a few notes and try and create or remember some of the things that happened to you back 20, 30, 40 years ago. It's not an easy exercise, is it?
Jacko, one thing I've got to do, mate, right?
Yeah.
I've got to thank my wife. Because most of the time through my life, I've stood up there and I've always forgot my wife in some way. And I'm going to thank my wife because
terrific.
She's been the force behind me. So thank Vicky for being a great wife.
Oh, look, and there's no question Vicky was always too good for you, Toe, when you snapped her back at the Woodville days. I don't know why she didn't leave you when you headed back to the country, to be honest with you. Mate, it's been great to catch up, Toey. I hope you continue to enjoy watching the boys play for as long as they do, and sit back and reflect, mate. Have a beer tonight. Remember the outstanding career that you had both as a player and as a coach. Your contribution to the game of Aussie rules football has been immeasurable. Well done, Toey Moore.
Thanks, Jacko. Good to see you, mate. Take it easy.
Okay, welcome back, folks. The goal of the week last week went to Riley Broadstock from the O'Sullivan Beach Lonsdale Football Club, and he wins a $50 sip and save voucher courtesy of 5AA. Thanks to those guys. And the mark of the week was won by Adam Proud from the Walkerville Football Club, and he won a $100 Bianco voucher. This week's candidates for mark and goal of the week will feature now.
Get a quick and easy low-rate car loan from Police Credit Union today.
9 News, teaming up with the Adelaide Footy League. Tom Wren on the ground at your club for Thursday Night Live, strengthening communities through footy.
This is courtesy of the Police Credit Union. $5,000 is the prize. All you've got to do is head to policecu.com.au/kickstart. Complete the entry form. All you've got to do is upload a photo of your club and place your vote. It's that easy. And the $5,000 prize can be used for anything from upgrading club grounds, uniforms, training programs, whatever you like. So we thank our major sponsor there, Police Credit Union, and all the registered clubs of the Adelaide Footy League are invited to enter the competition. Entries close 30th of April. The winner will be announced on the Police Credit Union's website, policecu.com.au, on the 9th of May. Good luck to all the clubs. Well, that's it, folks. We've got through the show. I've got to tell you, it's been a battle. It's been a real battle of my IT skills, and they, at the best of times, are pretty ordinary. Thanks for tuning in. I want to thank our guests, Alex McKay from the Teacher Gully Footy Club, Towie Shane Moore from Kilburn predominantly for our Yesterday's Hero segment. And thank you for tuning in. Hopefully next week, all things being well, we'll be able to go back to the studio. But in the meantime, just remember, whatever you're doing, wherever you are, one thing's for sure, you want to make sure your goals go right between the posts.